All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 3 o'clock. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks were unable to come to terms on a new deal. He will become a free agent at the end of the season. Shared his thoughts at camp today.
And I think I'm a franchise quarterback. I've been told I'm a franchise quarterback. It's been said publicly from ownership down here. And so to not have a deal done is very disappointing. I said the deadline was a deadline. I addressed the team to let them know I meant that.
Elsewhere, Saints wideout Chris Olave signed an extension worth $90 million in guaranteed money. Panthers wideout Chris Brazil will have season-ending surgery on his knee. And Drew Brees asked Broncos head coach Sean Payton to be his presenter at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The Mariners are 2 games back in the West, face the Dodgers tonight in L.A. First pitch at 7:10. Brian Wu against Roki Sasaki. Coming up on the Rip City Drive, the voice of the Indiana Fever, John Nolan, joins me at 3:20. Fire and Fever meet tomorrow night.
Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. Coors Light, cold as the Rockies. Please drink responsibly.
When can we start negotiating again?
The first thing I just want to correct is that we have been at the table this whole time.
At this point, we have 630,000 people watching this, and you know, if Bill Simmons' podcast has the reach, I think it does, many more.
Landlords are expected to maintain their property, but they are not automatically expected to fund every renovation a tenant would like to make.
Portland's current stagnant business climate, high income taxes, and divisive political environment make this a tough city to invest in.
Have showed up in good faith. We are not contemplating suing the Blazers.
If the Blazers are interested in going up to 600 or 650, we are welcome to that investment, but at this point, the public contribution is at 573.
There's an emotional, if not a spiritual support for having the Blazers here. You can feel it, you can palpate it. It's about hope. It's about the future.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
I never thought I would spend back-to-back weeks watching the Portland City Council in action, but yet here we are. I have done that, as many of you have. And frankly, I may place a self-imposed ban on watching any of that type of stuff in the future. I can't do it anymore. It's really messed up. And I prepared you for all of this, and now I'm getting irritated by the entire process. The rhetoric right now is pretty absurd from both sides, because you have both sides trying to utilize what leverage they believe that they have. The council is airing out all the dirty laundry in public because they want the people to see things the way that they do. The Blazers are, of course, utilizing their leverage with the possibility the team could be moved out of town, and that messes with the fan base who is passionately in love with the NBA and the Trailblazers, and the idea of losing the team is awful. But the reality is, this is exactly what we talked about. The rhetoric is going to get ridiculous. It's going to be nasty at times. There's going to be finger pointing, and then we have to watch these work sessions play out in real time. Very painful. It's pretty amazing, though, when you look at our bureaucracy and the way things operate on a local level, on a national level. It is pretty amazing our country has thrived as well as it has for as long as it has. Because sometimes you watch these open discussions, you're like, what in the world are these people talking about? And you got to love council members admitting that they don't go to Trailblazer games, but then talking about the importance of the Trailblazers in the community too. And that's my big beef with the council, for the most part, is the fact that they just don't, in my mind, truly understand the value of sports and what it brings to the community. So there you have it. But did today's work session change my belief of where this is headed? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're going to reach an agreement. They'll come to a deal, and then Tom Dundon will get what he needs to get the renovations done. The extended lease will be signed, and then we can put all this stuff to rest. I mean, what I wouldn't give for a ridiculous trade machine idea right now for the Trailblazers. You remember the good old days when we used to talk about nonsense, like who was going to come off the bench, Who's going to start? Is Dame going to start with Ja, or is it going to be Dame and Drew? What would you do? And what about this trade? Back when we used to talk about, basketball. But the negotiations right now are front and center. So coming up here at 4 o'clock, former Trailblazers executive Michael Llewellyn, who is a good friend and someone who's a lot smarter than I am, he's going to come in and we'll get his take on what's going on. I want to see what he thinks is playing out right now in real time. Does he see this deal getting done and the Trailblazers remaining in the city of Portland for an extended period of time? I mean, that's definitely what I think. And again, people are on my ass right now. They want me to come out and yell about Tom Dundon or be upset about Tom Dundon. And look, I'm in the same place today as I was yesterday, the day before that, a few weeks ago. I truly believe the deal's going to get done and that the Blazers will get the funding that they need to renovate Moda Center. I truly believe that. I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is political theater, and I'm okay with that too. I want them to do whatever's necessary to come to the table and get the deal done. I think it's going to get done. I don't think the Blazers are leaving Portland. I have not ever thought that was a real possibility. So there you have it. That's where I'm at. But Michael Llewellyn will get his take. He's going to join us at 4. Now, coming up at 3:20, John Nolan, who is the play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever, we'll talk some basketball with him. The Fever are in town for a game tomorrow night against the Fire. The two teams have split their first 2 regular season meetings. So we'll talk to John. I want to know what it's like to be the play-by-play voice of by far the most popular / most controversial / most watched team in the league. And what should we expect tomorrow night at Moda Center? And they've got 2 mega stars in Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark, but who should we be keeping an eye on tomorrow night, aside from the 2 obvious ones in Sophie and, of course, Caitlin Clark? And the good thing is the co-owner of the Seattle squad will not be in the house tomorrow night, so she won't be able to yell at or berate any more fans. So that's a good thing. So at least you can go to Moda Center and be able to sit in comfort and enjoy the game. But John Nolan will come up at 3:20. We'll talk a little basketball with him. You can jump on board. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. You can reach out. We can talk. Whatever's on your mind. You want to talk about the open session, the work session today, we can do that. Did it make you want to lose your mind the way it did me? Where are you at with the whole process? Do you think a deal is going to get done? Are you concerned? Where are you at with the whole process right now? 503-248-0620. And then Michael Llewellyn will join me in studio coming up at 4 o'clock. Now, tomorrow, I'm pretty pumped because Phil Steele is going to join the show and will preview the entire 2026 college football season. He is the author of the College Football Bible, the Phil Steele Preview Magazine. So we're going to talk with Phil tomorrow. I look forward to the conversation every year. He understands the game. He talks to all the coaches, and he puts out a magazine that is pure gold. So Phil Steele coming up on the show tomorrow as we near the start of college football season. We're really getting to the good time of the year. And that means that preseason football in the NFL is going to start in the very near future with the Hall of Fame game. And then we got camps that are opening up right now. And then college football will kick off late August. So it's a win for all of us. There was one big story. We had talked about this last week, just mentioned it in the update, but Baker Mayfield is going to play out the upcoming season and become a free agent after the year. Now, he was hoping to get a deal done with the Bucs. He's obviously played really good football for Tampa since he got there. But he talked about it at camp today about the process and really felt a little bit disrespected that he and the team could not get a deal done.
Obviously, I've told you guys I've been pretty upfront and honest about my feelings about Tampa. It being home for now our family. We're raising kids here. We love it here. I wanted a deal done and set the deadline and told them it was going to be all ball after that. And I did mean that. And I don't know if they thought I was just going to take some of the offers that they gave, but I'm at the point of my career and understanding what I've brought to this franchise. One, I'm very, very thankful for the chance they gave me. Do not get me wrong on that. But I really know what I've brought to this franchise, leadership-wise, and even play-wise. It's been some of the best years of my career, and I think it's only going to trend upwards. just being comfortable and feeling that. So disappointing in that regard to not have, to feel disrespected a little bit. And that's really the disappointing part, to feel undervalued after, thinking you've earned it. This is not a poor me thing. There's a lot of other people that have it way worse off, but I can sit here and look at other quarterbacks and peers and evaluate myself based on that and put myself in certain categories that I deserve to be compensated for that. And I think I'm a franchise quarterback. I've been told I'm a franchise quarterback. It's been said publicly from ownership down here. And so to not have a deal done is very disappointing. I said the deadline was a deadline. I addressed the team to let them know I meant that.
All right, there you go. That's Baker Mayfield. I really appreciate the honesty there from Baker. I think he's a franchise quarterback. He's played really well as a starter in Tampa. And for those of you wondering how Ja Morant is going to adjust here in Portland as he, gets his first year underway as a Trailblazer this upcoming season, well, just take a look at Baker. Look at how much he has matured with time. He's a different man today than when he entered the NFL. And that gives me hope for someone like Ja, who has, had some issues, but is 26 years old. He's getting a second lease on life, and he's got a chance to prove his detractors wrong. And the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, but what I like that Baker's doing here is it's like, look, here's the deadline. This is when I want to get a deal done by. And if we don't get it done, then I'm not talking. We're going to move on to the season, allowing me to focus on the task at hand. And if you choose to slow play this and we don't get a deal done before the year, look out. He's betting on himself. And I love that. He's set the deadline. He knows he's probably going to have a big year. And if they choose not to get a deal done, he can have a big season and the price tag's going to go up. So Tampa probably a bit foolish in not being able to get a deal done. And for Baker, it's pretty simple. You go out this upcoming season and you ball out and the team has success, you're going to get paid. So I like seeing guys bet on themselves. I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield. I love to see the maturity and the way things are coming along in his career. And he's right. He's done it with leadership and playmaking. He's been accurate with the football. He's been able to move the offense. And so now he's going to have a chance to go out and have a big season. And if he does, he'll get paid. I like seeing guys in that type of spot. And I like guys that are willing to embrace that type of pressure. We've seen other guys do this where they bet on themselves. They go into a final year of their contract. And the beauty of it is if he plays exceptionally well and becomes a free agent, all it takes is another team to jump in. And if you get multiple bidders, it's going to drive the price up. And then we'll have to see how Tampa decides to handle it at that point. But I like seeing that kind of stuff. But, man, that's a different type of Baker Mayfield than what we saw early in his career. It's probably helpful, too, that he's no longer a Cleveland Brown. Anytime you open your career in Cleveland and you're with the Browns, there's a strong possibility that it's not going to work out for you because they're a disaster. And teams that are poorly run, that don't know how to develop players and have a bad culture can disrupt a guy. But Baker got out. He was able to revive and rehab himself, and he's done a great job in Tampa. All right, we'll come back and talk some WNBA action. The Fever are in town tomorrow night taking on the Fire, and John Nolan is the voice of the Fever. We'll talk with him next. Michael Llewellyn, former Trailblazers exec, in studio at 4. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, coming up tomorrow night at Moda Center, the Fire will host the Indiana Fever. Tip-off is at 7 o'clock. And very happy to welcome to the Rip City Drive for the first time the voice of the Indiana Fever. It is John Nolan here on the Rip City Drive. John, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to join the show.
Hey, Chad. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, a lot of things to talk about. You know, the Fever right now 5th in league standings, 4 straight wins, 8 of their last 10. What's been the key to their recent surge?
Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of a shame that nowadays the Fever are off in the WNBA in general, right? Have all these headlines for all these different reasons. But the Fever are an extremely fun team to watch because as they've won 4 in a row and 8 of their last 10, their offense is just on fire. And so for the season, they lead the league in scoring, averaging almost 96 points a game. There's never been a team in WNBA history, and this is now the 30th season for the league, but there's never been a team that has averaged 94 points per game before. So it's a historic offense, of course, led by Caitlin Clark, but Kelsey Mitchell is an all-star guard in the backcourt with Caitlin. Aaliyah Boston is one of the best post players in the league. So they lead the league in three-point shooting. That's been led by Caitlin and Kelsey, making 38% of their threes. But, yeah, this is a team that can really score it. And so at times I know it gets frustrating for the coaching staff. They have something to be desired defensively some nights, but it's typically a shootout, so at least fun for fans to watch.
Well, you mentioned how fun they are to watch, exciting basketball. They score well. But I think what that is for me is like when you watch the Fever, their movement and some of their actions, like player movement and ball movement, pretty simple concept, but they do move bodies really well, and I think that creates some good passing lanes and exciting basketball. That's how I see it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to your point, they've been leading the league in pace throughout the season as well, and even something that Caitlin has talked about in her development, because she was a household name for her last couple of years at Iowa, and now it's her 3rd year in the WNBA, so sometimes you can forget she's just 24 years old, and while it's her 3rd year in the WNBA since she missed most of last season, in a way, it's almost like her 2nd season as a pro. So anyway, my point is just that she still has a ceiling she hasn't even reached as a player yet, but she has said that recently something that has evolved in her game is just her off-ball movement and her cutting and trying to be more like a Steph Curry, not only for being a prolific shooter with the deepest range, but yeah, that cutting just to get open and make things even harder for defenses.
You know, the Fire and Fever split their first 2 meetings, John. Fever took game number 1 behind a strong performance from Aaliyah Boston. The Fire took that next meeting in Portland. Megan DeLeo had a big night. What are you looking for in this matchup tomorrow? Yeah,
well, I think for the Fever, the main thing is redemption, because it was arguably their worst loss of the season when they were here about a couple months ago, and credit the Fire for, the way that they played. And I guess they've really, made a name for themselves here in this first rebirth season of being a team that plays exceptionally hard and feeds off the energy of the great crowds that they get at the Moda Center. And that particular night they couldn't miss. I know for the season they have not necessarily been a high potent offensive team, but it felt like they couldn't miss during stretches of that last game against the Fever. So Indiana definitely is looking to be locked in more so defensively. Like I was talking about, that's been an issue for them at times this year. And yeah, someone like Carla Late, she especially had success attacking one-on-one against Caitlin. And Caitlin has talked about improving her defense. And so I to look for the Fever to show a lot more heart. It was really the one outlier game of the season in which it didn't go down to the wire for them. So I think this is one that the Fever have been actually looking forward to for a while, to have a chance to show fans here in Portland what they're really capable of.
We're talking to John Nolan, voice of the Indiana Fever. They'll be in town tomorrow night, 7 o'clock tip at Moda Center to take on the Fire. John, I just assumed going into the season the Fire would be brutal as an expansion team in their first year, but they've been respectable. What are your thoughts on the way they've been able to play in season number 1?
Yeah, and I'm going off of what a lot of the national analysts were predicting going into this season, and it's understandable for a new team to be towards the bottom. And, as it is right now, they'd be the first team out of the playoffs. And I know things are tougher with Sarah Ashley Parker's injury now. But, yeah, kudos to them. Hats off. And obviously, Alex Sarama has an interesting background coming from the NBA and, kind of a new aged approach to things. And, my point of view would just be whatever they're doing has been sensational, and it's cool. Like I know it was a pretty emotional win when they beat the Fever earlier this season, and someone like Megan spoke about how they feel like as a group, they've been overlooked, and almost everyone on the roster was available because other teams weren't prioritizing them. So even a player like Emily Anxler, who had a bit of time earlier in her career with the Fever and wasn't kept there in Indiana, I admire the way that they play with a chip on their shoulder and just play with a lot of pride and passion. And for that matter, though, the way that they get after it defensively and have the capability on the offensive side of the court too. I've enjoyed following them this year for sure.
So, John, some real talk here. Like, what's the experience been like? I mean, you're the voice of the most popular team in the WNBA with two megastars in Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Like, how much fun is it? And it's got to be chaotic at times, but just give us a sense of what it's like to be the voice of the Fever.
Yeah, this is my second year with the team. So I was not with the team for Caitlin's rookie season. And as just a quick background, I actually grew up in the New York City area. I went to Syracuse University, spent more than a decade doing minor league baseball, and still do G League games for the Pacers affiliate. And I've done mid-major college basketball. But I was kind of grinding and out of the spotlight as far as the opportunities that I had in play-by-play. And so then all of a sudden, it's a little bit funny because certainly, you go back a handful of years ago, I did not have it circled on my radar to think that getting to be the play-by-play broadcaster for a WNBA team, would be such a thrill because most teams in the league still don't even have radio broadcasts. So it's a credit to the Fever and ownership, which is part of the Pacers Sports and Entertainment Group, that we're actually now the only team in the WNBA that has radio broadcasts for each and every game, home and away, in terms of getting to travel as well. I know some teams like the Fire now do have a radio presence, but they don't do road games on site. They do it remotely. So really fortunate to have this chance. And unfortunately, like I was alluding to before, a lot of the headlines are twisted and out of reality. I know Caitlin recently had an interview with ESPN or spoke about it at All-Star Weekend that the WNBA just had, where there's a big disconnect between what is reality and then what a lot of the chatter or whatnot comments on social media and some of the cable TV stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a great group of people to be around, which enhances the experience too. And the level of play is just so phenomenal. It's a real privilege for me to get a chance to try to do my best to chronicle it.
No, that's great. You see the games every night. What's your take on how the games are officiated? Not just with Caitlin Clark, but league-wide. What's your read?
Well, there has been some progress this year in terms of the WNBA having an emphasis on what they refer to as the freedom of movement. And so now, obviously, there are still missed calls, notably the Caitlin situation with Alyssa Thomas of Phoenix in recent weeks, but there has been some progress made. There was also just an announcement in the last week that next year the WNBA will have a replay center, basically the same situation that the NBA has. But yeah, I think that there's still room for growth with the WNBA in a number of ways, and officiating improving is part of that too. And that's, what players and coaches seem to believe. And then for any of us who are watching the games, we can kind of pick up on that too. It's obviously a tough sport to officiate. Don't begrudge the officials for the challenging job that they have, but there's definitely room to be better in that department. But we have seen progress this year, and it's not only the Fever who are scoring a ton of points, but scoring is up around the league. And just from the fan perspective, that does make for a more fun watch or listen.
We're talking to John Nolan, voice of the Indiana Fever. What is Caitlin Clark like? And not necessarily during games, because we get a chance to see that, but with her teammates, off the court, on the road. How would you describe her?
Yeah, I would say that what you see on the court at times is almost like an entirely different person, because she's gets her fair share of technical fouls when she's a little bit too fired up out there. And I do think it's a shame that some people maybe, kind of think that that's who she is and draw whatever conclusions. But I find her to be, especially considering the unreal star status that she has, I find her to be an exceptionally humble person, down to earth. Her teammates describe her as being goofy. I can definitely see that as well from being around the team, like to, just be lighthearted, make jokes, kind of, rib people, just a fun person to be around. And considering all the stuff that swirls out there, I give her a ton of credit. And honestly, I think it's a reflection of her family too, her parents and other loved ones in her support system that, have kept her really grounded and level-headed. And I think she pretty much hits a home run every press conference she has in terms of showing grace and, just being a good, likable person.
Yeah, no doubt. I think she's very likable. And how important is it for Clark to have, a enforcer, a defender, someone like Sophie Cunningham on the floor to help protect her?
Yeah, obviously Sophie earned that status last year when they had a game against the Connecticut Sun, when it was Marina Mabry who just shoved Caitlin, which was pretty ridiculous. And then J.C. Sheldon was the other player who, I think unintentionally, but had poked Caitlin in the eye during that game. And it was in the closing seconds when Sophie was chasing down Sheldon for a layup attempt and had a flagrant foul against her. At the end of the day, though, like realistically, for as tough as Sophie is, and I admire Sophie in a lot of ways too, she is not really an enforcer because she's a guard as well. Like, she can only enforce so much. The Fever have some other players like Maisha Hines-Allen is a new addition this year as a veteran forward on the team who's, a little bit physically more built than Sophie to try to be an enforcer. It's important for every team to have a wide variety of players, but you have seen, like, the Alyssa Thomas play stands out. That's like what unfortunately gets more replay review highlights shown than the great passing and the deep threes and stuff like that. But that's not like a night in, night out basis that the play's been over physically this year. That has progressed pretty well.
Yeah, no doubt. I really enjoy it. I appreciate Sophie Cunningham so much. I watch her podcast. I think she's, she's very real, much like Caitlin Clark. She shares what's on her mind. She's funny. She laughs, and you can tell she's having a good time. So I like seeing a group like the Fever. They appear to really enjoy playing with each other, and I think that type of chemistry is going to help as they move along.
Definitely. I'm glad you're able to pick up on that. And while I mentioned that Caitlin has like a different personality on the court than in real life, I truly admire that Sophie is the same person that you see on TV, that you see if you watch or listen to her podcast.
She's always the same.
I get a chance to see. Yeah, and that I get a chance to see sometimes behind the scenes. And I think that she is a really just genuine, caring person. Like, for what it's worth, if I'm walking through the hotel or to the plane or something, holding an extra bag, she's the type of person to be like, oh, hey, can I grab that for you? Or, one time I was getting ready for a broadcast, looking to make sure I had a water bottle, and, she's offering me her own water bottle to make sure that I'm set. Just a very genuine person, and a very funny one at that too. And for better or worse, pretty unfiltered.
Hey, what was that like when you were watching? Did you see the whole pointing scene go down as it was playing out before your eyes?
Yes. In the last month when they were playing Phoenix, I would not have predicted in a million years that would have become a legendary meme that would be shared everywhere. And pretty phenomenal. But Sophie definitely has a knack for these moments, and just I think her personality does resonate and connect with a lot of fans. And it's ironic because we're talking about how she says whether she's an analyst on USA Network for their WNBA coverage occasionally remotely, and then she's got the podcast, but in that moment it was not saying anything at all. That really resonated.
Yeah, it's great. John Nolan, voice of the Fever, with us here on the Rip City Drive. They're going to be in town tomorrow night for a game at Moda Center against the Portland Fire. Hey, John, what a pleasure it is to catch up with you, man. Keep up the good work, and I appreciate you making time for the show, and enjoy the game tomorrow night.
Oh, no, Chad, anytime. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, really cool to be out here in Portland and see all that the city has to offer. And I know it was an awesome crowd when the Fever were here earlier this season, hoping to see, fans for both teams out at the game tomorrow night and just have a really fun, positive atmosphere with high-level basketball out there.
Yeah, that sounds great, buddy. Enjoy it, and we'll catch up in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See you guys.
There you go. All right, appreciate that. John Nolan, voice of the Fever. I have listeners sending me pictures of Sophie Cunningham. Look, I'm well aware of what she looks like, okay? I like Sophie. I'm totally down. I mean, she is a smoke show. But her podcast is terrific. She's just a normal person that speaks freely and has a great personality. The podcast is really good. But, he's right. They're the highest scoring team in the WNBA. Fun to watch because they have, good ball movement, good player movement. And those are the type of things I like to see when I'm watching basketball. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. My man Michael Llewellyn's going to be in studio coming up at 4 o'clock. We'll get a chance to talk with him and get his take on what we're seeing with the Blazers and the city of Portland and the ongoing negotiations. We had the work session today, which was televised. And so if you watch that, you understand how painful it is to see, that whole scene play out. Just brutal. I'll give you a couple of samples here of what we dealt with. Here is Samir Kanal, who is part of the city council, giving a shout out to Bill Simmons, if you can believe that.
At this point, we're not just trying to convince 12 people. I think Councilor Green talked about this earlier. At this point, we have 630,000 people watching this. And, if Bill Simmons' podcast has the reach, I think it does, many more watching it as well. So it has to be able to be explained. And backed up. The math has to math. And I don't mean that in the sense of we need a specific dollar amount back, but I do mean that in the sense of if we say we're getting a dollar amount back, the math has to add up to that.
All right. Elsewhere, I think the Blazers, I think this was Zandria Conyers, who was part of the Trailblazers legal team, saying the Blazers have always been negotiating.
When can we start negotiating again?
The first thing I just want to correct is that we have been at the table this whole time. We've not left the table. We've been very engaged. As Dwayne alluded to in his earlier comments, we have multiple conversations a week. We have standing meetings, and there is no part of our side or any of us that have not been available for additional conversations and questions outside of the standard meetings that we already have.
Very friendly. And here's Olivia Clark. She doesn't go to games, but has a clear understanding of the meaning of the Trailblazers to the community.
There are intangible benefits to having them here that we cannot measure. There's no scientific approach. I mean, maybe polling is about as close as you get. And, I admit I don't go to Blazer games, but I can feel how important this is to our whole community, that we do this right. There is an emotional, if not a spiritual support for having the Blazers here. You can feel it, you can palpate it. It's about hope, it's about the future, and that's not something that you can calculate the value of. I just wanted to throw that out there, remind everybody how important this is. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate you throwing that out there, Miss Clark. I don't go to games, but I understand how important they are to the community. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Michael Llewellyn going to join me in the studio coming up at 4. I appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Big thanks to John Nolan for joining the show. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, a couple of points I want to read to you from Edan Krolowitz from Rip City, Not Rip Off, who has been on the show frequently over the last couple of weeks. In fact, joined me in studio a couple of weeks ago for 2 hours. And Edan says, a few quick thoughts about the city council meeting today. The Blazers staff say the arena is already in first-class condition and that this isn't really about the arena. It's about what's around the arena. News to me. I thought we were talking about renovating an arena. If not, is everything they want completely unnecessary? Number two, the first-class provision only matters if they leave. If they don't plan to leave, then it doesn't really matter. Why would the Blazers want the city to remove that clause if they were acting in good faith? Number three, some or all of the $275 million that comes from parking and ticket fees could go to the general fund. I think the people of Portland would welcome that level of return for a project of this magnitude. Note that the current lease already requires the Blazers to split maintenance costs with the city. Sounds like a better arrangement since it incentivizes both parties to keep maintenance costs down. Number four, the city council and mayor were unified in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, maybe ever. A nice thing to see. Credit to everyone involved. And five, sounds like an August 12th yes vote has legs, but only if serious economic considerations, revenue streams coming back are made. So there you have it. And that's really what it comes down to. Joe Freeman puts out, as the Blazers and local politicians continue to bicker over a Moda Center remodel, fans have been left to fret over the doomsday possibility that their beloved NBA team will bolt for another city. And he's got a piece on what are some of the possibilities in terms of where they might go if they were to leave. But again, I don't think that's going to happen. And, this is part of the process. Again, remember, the negotiations get contentious. It got real contentious in Raleigh when Dundon was, negotiating with the city there to get the arena renovated, to get the ability to, develop the area around the arena. And they got a deal in place. But it got contentious. And the city leaders who were involved in that said that it got, very, very contentious. There was bitterness, but they got a deal done. And so I'm a big believer that Dundon's got a plan. He knows how he wants to approach this. And he's not going to give anything up until they get the deal that they believe is best. And that means things are going to be said. There's going to be fingers pointed. People are going to get upset. There might be some hurt feelings. But in the end, if it drives everything to the negotiating table and they get a deal done, that's really all that matters. And what would be really nice is to get a yes vote on August 12th so we can continue to move forward. But we'll have more from Michael Llewellyn, who's going to join me in studio coming up here in a few moments. Phil Steele is going to join the Rip City Drive tomorrow, so we'll get a full college football preview with him as we near the start of another football season, which is great. Because I want that, you want that, we all want that. Michael Shacker wants that. I can't wait for football season. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number if you want to jump on board. I'll take your thoughts on the open work session today. What's your takeaway? Are you confident that the two sides are going to come together and be able to reach an agreement and the Blazers will get the funding they need to move forward? Are you confident in that? Are you concerned? How do you see the process playing out? And where are you at with Tom Dundon? Are you frustrated with him? Do you understand where he's coming from as a businessman? And of the things that have gone down since he took over and was officially welcomed in as owner, what frustrates you the most? So if you got any thoughts on that, I'll take that as well, and we can continue to work through that. And we talked with John Nolan, voice of the Indiana Fever. They're going to be in town for a game tomorrow night at Moda Center against the Portland Fire. And the two teams have split their first two meetings on the year. So that's where we're at. But we'll see how things continue to play out. Where are we now? At the end of July. So we still have about 2 weeks until that vote's down. So I just think that that's going to be plenty of time for more negotiating to take place and they get to a point where they'll be able to get the yes vote, which is important. Let's go out to our good friend Paul in West Lynn. Paul, I appreciate the call. What's on your mind? Fire away, buddy.
One of your best friends. I just found out that we have a mutual friend, and that made me happy. Of the Eggers family,
Oh, excellent.
Anywho,
yeah, I'm a big fan of the Agers family. Big fan.
They're both big fans of yours, and it makes me feel good that I can call in and talk to you, because if they like you, that means you're an excellent person. We already knew that. I just had a couple thoughts, Chad. The meeting this morning, I felt more confident. I never lack confidence that the city wants to keep the Blazers in town. They just want information, do their due diligence, and be fair to the taxpayers. And that's what I got out of it. Yeah, there's a bunch of quirky characters on that council, but they're just doing their due diligence, and they want to know, if we're going to write you a check, what's this money going towards? I don't think they're being unreasonable. The Blazers representatives, both on the presidential side and their council, seem to be still a little shady, to my appearance, with not having full disclosure. The optics of that remain bad, in my mind. Then I had this crazy analogy, Chad, in Portland, in that we're the same age. Remember when we were kids in the 80s and 90s? Pizza Hut was like a cool experience.
Oh, yeah.
The colors were red, white, and black. The pizza was good quality. You had the tablecloths that mimicked an Italian restaurant, the little candle there, the red plastic glasses.
Yep.
It was an experience.
I loved it.
There was a connection to the community in the schools, right? You read so many books. You got a free personal pan pizza.
Uh-huh.
Even though part of a chain, it kind of felt local and like a family restaurant. Then they changed the recipe, and they went really corporate, and the quality wasn't as good. You don't sit down at Pizza Hut anymore. It's all about profits. And I know it's a crazy analogy, but I feel like that's what the new ownership is doing right now. They're taking this, these things you can't put, that are intangible, this experience, and putting profit over an experience. And it continues to leave a really bad taste in my mouth. I guess that analogy is appropriate with pizza, but I'm just unimpressed with this guy. He reminds me of Mr. Burns. He just seems like he's a Simpson character.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Paul, and I appreciate the reminiscing about Pizza Hut. Even in my small town that I grew up in of Manford, Oklahoma, with a population of 2,000, we had a Pizza Hut. And don't forget about the all-important jukebox that was in there where you could play some of your favorite songs while you were enjoying your pizza. You're right about the red glasses. I had like 2 or 3 straight years where I celebrated my birthday at the Pizza Hut in Manford. It was awesome. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Michael Llewellyn's coming up next in studio on the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 4 o'clock. Chad here. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday afternoon. We'll start with the NFL. The Saints wideout Chris Olave signed an extension today worth $90 million in guaranteed money. Panthers wideout Chris Brazil is going to have season-ending surgery on his knee. Drew Brees has asked Sean Payton, head coach of the Broncos, to be his presenter at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs unable to come to terms on a new deal. He's going to play out the year and become a free agent. He talked about this at camp today.
And I think I'm a franchise quarterback. I've been told I'm a franchise quarterback. It's been said publicly from ownership down here. And so to not have a deal done is very disappointing. I said the deadline was a deadline. I addressed the team to let them know I meant that.
The Mariners, 2 games back in the West, they'll face the Dodgers tonight in Los Angeles. That first pitch at 7:10. It's going to be Brian Wu against Roki Sasaki. All right, just got a message from Michael Llewellyn. I know this is a big surprise, but he's jammed up a bit in traffic and will be here in the very near future. So he's going to join me in studio. Your telephone number, if you want to jump on board, is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. You can jump on board. I would love your thoughts. I was so happy when I was coming into work today. I-5 southbound on the Terwilliger curves was, I don't know what was going on. I think there was a wreck or something, but it was a complete madhouse. Backed up from downtown all the way out here to Lake Oswego. And luckily I was cruising the other direction southbound. Northbound lanes were jammed up. So traffic, like usual, a complete mess in the area. Yeah. There's going to be one day where I'm just not going to be able to take it anymore, and I'm going to have to shut it down. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Let's go out to the phones. Drew in Portland wants to chime in on the city council. Drew, I appreciate the call, buddy. Long time no chat. What's on your mind?
Hey, Dad, what's up? So I haven't called or said anything about this since it all started, since Silver, like a year or so ago, came out and said he thinks we need a new arena. But my personal take on what happened today, and I'll just focus on today, I just didn't think that the team's talking points or their attorneys' talking points were very well thought out. And if Tom doesn't like to spend money, why is he paying people to show up with those poor talking points in the public setting like that? That was kind of my take on it. And I don't think that the city has necessarily said everything publicly perfectly either, but I do feel that the terms the city presented seemed pretty reasonable. And at that point in time, I don't think your attorneys or your president should go out and start saying things like, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but like, we don't want to be sued if we break the first class clause, and the first class clause deals with them leaving. So like publicly saying, if we leave, we don't want you to sue us. Like, that's just not something I would make a public talking point out of when there's been such reasonable terms presented to you. So I kind of think that we put Tom in this pedestal a little bit, where he's this like powerful billionaire that came in and brought the team, and he knows how to negotiate, and he knows how to lead. And I think that there's another side to it though, where he's the guy who left the player home for the playoffs, right? He left Love home, like, and he said publicly, "Oh, I didn't know I shouldn't do that." So I kind of think that there's a little bit of disorganization on the Blazers' behalf, to, and that's just kind of what I got from it, and that's my take on what happened today. Is I just didn't think they looked that great, but I do hope they get the deal done, because it would obviously be a disaster to lose the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, there's no question about that if Portland were to leave. And I appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much, Drew. 503-248-0620. I think what we got today are both sides continuing to play the negotiating game. I think this is Dwayne Hankins talking about, how the city of Portland is bad for business.
Portland's current stagnant business climate, high income taxes, and divisive political environment make this a tough city to invest in. It makes it harder to sell tickets, secure corporate partnerships, and as I said, recruit players. And that's not just our assessment. Read the headlines. Specifically, national brands have passed on partnership deals with the Blazers because Portland is not a, quote, target market, quote, and players have flatly rejected playing for our team. That's the market speaking.
Yeah, pretty much. Portland is bad for business. There's no doubt about it. That's part of the reason why the council needs to make sure they do whatever they can to keep the Blazers in town, because they're a rejuvenated city of Portland, I think, is one that has the Portland Trailblazers being a part of that. There's no question in my mind. What else have we got here? Little mayor? How about Mayor Keith Wilson chiming in?
But we had a commitment from the NBA, while not written, implied, and Tom Dundon and the new owner also at that point supported it. So that's essentially what we were working off of. We also, we have ongoing conversations with the NBA as well, and that commitment, so far as I know, was still in place to this day.
And Mayor Keith Wilson also clarified that they're not suing the Blazers.
Our negotiating team have showed up in good faith. We are not contemplating suing the Blazers, Rip City Management, or any other parties. And I just wanted to make sure you trust us in that discussion. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And what is the total package we're talking about here? Is it close to $600 million? Is it 573? What is the number?
I think the marketing, your language, of $600 million became the number out in the stratosphere. And so am I being told then that the real number is 573?
That's the number that we've currently put on the table to invest in. If the Blazers are interested in going up to 600 or 650, we are welcome to that investment. But at this point, the public contribution is at 573.
27 million is a big deal. So thank you. I'm glad we clarified that.
All right, 503-248-0620. The open work session today. I hope you did not watch it. I did take time to watch the majority of it, but fortunately, just like last time, I had someone give me a phone call and it was able to break up some of that viewing. Yeah, it's just one of those things you watch and you're listening to both sides, but there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit back and let the process play out. And hopefully the elected officials will find a way to get this deal done to make sure the Trailblazers remain in Portland into the foreseeable future. And I think that's where we're headed, but it's going to be a painful, slow process, which is typically what happens with government when you're working through the bureaucracy. It's painful sometimes. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Also, here's the discussion of landlord versus tenant.
I think that many Portlanders can relate to this through the lens of landlord and tenant. I keep hearing this and seeing discourse around this, and so I wanted to speak to it because landlords are expected to maintain their property, but they are not automatically expected to fund every renovation a tenant would like to make.
Let's see here. That's pretty much it. You probably don't want to hear any more of that. Michael Llewellyn's going to join us here in studio in a few minutes, dealing with some of the traffic out there. The golf course was spectacular this morning. Weather was great. I'll be hitting Forest Hills on Saturday and Sunday morning early to get off early to avoid any of the weekend crowds at the golf course. And I was checking the extended forecast. It looks like we got some good weather ahead of us as we get ready to enter into August. I cannot believe it's already August. Unbelievable. And time goes by too fast. All right, so tomorrow, 90 degrees, sunny. Saturday and Sunday, partly sunny, 75 and 78. And then next week, Monday through Saturday, nothing but clear skies and sun with temperatures 86, 97, 98, 90, 88, and 88. And basically, it's going to be from August 3rd all the way up until the 13th, nothing but clear skies and sun. That's what we're looking at. That is awesome. I love this time of year. Longer days, a lot of sunshine, and we get a chance to get outside and enjoy the weather. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can jump on board. I'll take any of your thoughts. If you want to talk about, the negotiations that are ongoing, we can do that. And if you want to share any thoughts on the upcoming college football season, I'd be happy to share your thoughts on that. We talked with Brett Cianci of Pick Six Previews. His preview mag projects Oregon to be the national champion, to finally get over the hump and get the job done. And there you have it. All right, we'll step aside. I'm going to go grab Michael Llewellyn, and he's going to join us in studio. So if you want to jump on board, you got any questions for Michael, you want to be a part of the conversation, 503-248-0620. Former Trailblazers exec Michael Llewellyn in studio next on the Rip City Drive. What's up, my time? Then right now to have Michael Llewellyn in studio, former Trailblazers executive. What's up, my friend? Then right now to have Michael Llewellyn in studio, former Trailblazers executive. What's up, my friend? Great to see you.
It is good to come and hang out in the inner sanctum of Chad Doing and Rip City Radio. And last time I was up here, man, you guys are still doing some pretty heavy lifting in terms of your construction project. But you know, it looks good.
Yes.
And, you know, the fortress of solitude will survive.
Yeah, and you've been a part of many work environments. What I like about the new setup now is that I hated before where everyone was spread out so you felt like you were alone. It's nice to walk out in the hallway now and see people where you can have interaction. The human interaction is one of the main reasons why I love coming in the office. It's a good thing.
Well, and you know this because you've been a broadcaster so long. When you got that proximity, you know, to other parts of the business, then the synergy is there, the energy is there. You know, your salespeople are motivated, your on-air talent's motivated, and you know your listeners, your fans are motivated. So it's just going to be, you know, straight up for Rip City Radio.
I like the creative process too. You know, when you start talking to other people, I'm just one mind, but when you can have conversations with others, they might mention something that sparks an idea, and that can lead to a conversation, which is what I love.
Yeah, there's some fantastic ideas, and you know, my corporate career, you know, expands, you know, 4 decades, and great ideas usually happen, you know, as you're passing by somebody getting coffee, you're passing by somebody on the way to the elevator, you guys are out in the parking lot heading home or coming in the morning. Those type of candid conversations, casual conversations, spark creativity. Before you know it, you're making things happen.
All right, Michael, you were one of the many in the area who watched the entire working session today from start to finish.
I did. I mean, and you know, I come from a long line of politicians. Plus, you know, I'm a PR guy as well. So I was coming into it curious, you know, how that type of a setting and how the Blazers were going to fare with Dwayne Hankins bringing, you know, the leadership team in and the city council and kind of and I'm sure listeners kind of went into it, you know, expecting some of what they had seen in the media headlines of, you know, some disagreements, some bickering and that kind of stuff. But this was exactly the opposite. And I'm glad that's what it was. You know, I think it was an effective session. I think the Blazers got a chance to remind people of what this is all about for them. The city council got to ask some questions, some very specific questions, some of them very general.
Yeah.
And you can tell the difference between some of our counselors, some of them I know well, that have, you know, long political history versus those that, you know, are still new to the political game. So some of the questioning reflected that. But I think it was, you know, very effective. You know, 2+ hours of my time between listening to not only the first half of the work session with Dwayne Hankins, but then the second half of the session where the council really got deeper into sort of the next iteration of what the term sheet is going to look like and what's eventually going to lead to the negotiations and what you and I both believe. You and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
We don't think the team is leaving. This is sort of, you know, part of the dance. That you can have sometimes, especially when you got new personalities like Tom Dundon and his ownership group coming in, but it's kind of part of the dance to eventually get to an agreement.
I agree. And the way I've kind of read the process throughout is, you know, it got contentious a couple of weeks ago. There was some finger pointing and some of the blame game, which is normal. And then late last week, we started to get some conversation on both sides, which led to this open session today where it generated what you talked about, where both sides were able to communicate their desires, their needs, but they did so in a more respectful manner.
Yeah, it was cordial. It was conversational. There was no yelling and screaming. And city council meetings, you know, whether it's the regularly scheduled meetings or these work sessions, you know, they can be somewhat scripted. The council members come prepared. With questions that they want to ask, and you know Council President Dunphy, you know, really orchestrates the meeting based on giving everybody ample opportunity to pose the questions and make their comments. And of course, you knew the Blazers are going to come prepared. You know, their general counsel was there, their CFO was there for some of the questions that might have been going down, you know, different kind of rabbit holes that you can have in a conversation like this. But I think everybody walked away, at least I hope they did, you know, walked away with the notion that, you know what, we're in a good place now. The real negotiations can start.
That's great. All right, just your So watching it from start to finish, what were some of your general overall takes on what you saw with who was there and how things kind of developed today?
Well, it was an important meeting for the council because I think virtually all of them were there. I think Candace Avalos participated remotely. And then as the camera would pan around the council chambers, and it's bigger since the last time I testified before the chamber. Bill Shanley
It's expanded, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Shanley and I testified before the chamber, years ago during my Blazer years when Dr. Jack Ramsey had passed away, and we went before the council and worked with Councilor Steve Novick to fast track renaming the Winning Way Street there at the Rose Quarter, renaming it Ramsey Way,
Yes.
in honor of Dr. Jack. So, but then there were 6 council members plus the mayor. Now there are 13 when you count the mayor as well. So it's a much more crowded room, which means that a lot more opinions have to be weighed and respected as part of this. But any of the the venom that may have been reflected in some of the earlier media conversations, media reports, it just wasn't there, and that wasn't even the point of today's meeting. I think today's meeting, just as an observer from the outside, was really an opportunity for both the council as well as the Blazers to really sort of lay out the scenario as they see it,
Yeah.
and start to set things up for next steps.
It's easy for someone like me to sit back and be very critical of the council, but you're very aware of the process and what they go through. And I've always thought that it must be difficult when you are trying to get a deal done like this, but you're also trying to be mindful of your constituents and what they want. So can you maybe speak to that process of what it's like to be in their shoes dealing with a deal of this magnitude when they have so many, they're getting pulled in many different directions?
There's nothing more difficult than negotiation by committee, in that sense. And this is the ultimate committee because you've got the elected officials who are, divided by districts. So they are beholding to the Portlanders who live in their districts. To represent the interests of their districts, yet they're bringing all of those individual interests and putting them into one sort of political Cuisinart, if you will, and trying to reach consensus of what is going to be best for the city of Portland. And not only best for the city of Portland short term, but in this instance, best for the city of Portland long term. Now, you add the complexity of someone new who had never done business in the state of Oregon before, certainly not at this level, of Tom Dundon, is the majority owner of the Trailblazers now and his ownership group, coming into that environment. And I'm not surprised that there weren't, a few missteps along the way, as you sort of kind of glide through the turbulence and really settle in on a workable pattern. I think that one of the things I liked about the way Dwayne Hankins made his comments from the beginning, he reminded people how important an economic driver that the Portland Trailblazers are. You've got $600 million in revenue, that comes into the city and the state of Oregon. You've got 1.2 to 1.6 million guests, every year that come to various events, not just 41 regular season basketball games, not counting postseason or any preseason games, and reminding people that the Trailblazer Foundation, I used to serve on that foundation board when I worked for the team, has given away more than $17 million supporting charitable interests around the state, including $2.1 million in 2025 alone. So
the Blazers community outreach is fabulous.
Yeah, I thought they did set a great factual foundation then for how the rest of the conversation went.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that the community outreach by the Trailblazers for years has been one of the best in the league, and it does so much here locally in the community. I was just thinking in general over the last couple of weeks of, the Blazers being in town and having a great tenant in Moda Center, and think about how much it impacts across the city, Michael, whether it's your rideshare drivers who are transporting people to and from the arena, the restaurants around town that people fill to watch Blazer games, or they'll go to a restaurant close to Moda Center when they're going to a concert. You've got obviously mass transit and the public transit that people utilize. You've got jobs, both part-time and full-time, that support the community. There's so many different things. The tentacles are far-reaching for having the Blazers here in town.
Well, and I think that's where it's important to separate business from the emotional side. And I think so much of what was driving the headlines and driving some of the angst that Blazer fans were feeling and some of the concerns that the Blazers were feeling as well is that emotions kind of got the better of people literally right off the bat. And let's not forget, too, that this whole thing really got triggered around the notion of change and transition. A new owner, one who people did not know well. We had all of these years of, Paul Allen had bought the team back in 1988. And so we had all these years under the Allen family and Vulcan, and all of a sudden change was coming, and that can scare the heck out of folks.
Oh, there's no question.
And then so people began to read between the lines when they didn't need to read between the lines. They began to take some references, out of context. But I think if nothing else, council members got a chance to, sort of, lay that out there, ask some of their more pertinent questions. Even though, it was kind of painful. I know the reaction, at least externally, was painful when that initial term sheet came forward from the city council and it was described as a non-starter. And when I first saw that, not so much reacting to it as negatively, but it really was just the beginning.
Yeah,
where we were going to go. And the Blazers mentioned today that where the new term sheet that the city council brought forward and where the original agreement that was put together with the bridge lease and sort of going down this longer term path, that there are like 20 things and not so much even related to that, but even how the legislation played out at the state level.
Yeah.
That there are 20 differences between where that landed and where this initial term sheet landed coming from the city. So now, Commissioner Loretta Smith, asked the Blazer General Counsel around whether or not they would get a chance to see and see here specifically what those 20 differences are. So there's a starting point for these conversations. All right, so how do we find middle ground on these differences and move this thing forward?
All right, telephone number is 503-248-0620. If you want to jump in on the conversation, you can do so. Let's go ahead and head out to the phones, Michael. Let's grab Gray, who's in Portland. Gray, you're on with Chad Doing and Michael Llewellyn. What's on your mind? Gray.
Well, I just wanted to. Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say that Portland. We all know it's a terrible place to do business, right? And Tom Dundon is a poor billionaire. He's like, people call him a billionaire like he's, got more money than God, like Paul Allen. But this guy, he is just scraping by as a, quote, billionaire, and he wants to make money, right? So he wants to make money, and he needs to have the best deal possible. And what I find very frustrating watching the Portland Council is they don't seem to realize that what they should be doing is trying to treat the Blazers as if they're luring a team from another city and we didn't have one. That's the dire straits that we're in right now. Okay? They have to give Tom Dundon a great deal or they're just going to bail because it's so hard to make money here. Everybody leaves the state, So it's the policies of the city that are the problem. They don't seem to realize it. You can hear them. They keep wondering about their return on investment and so forth. But when you're making a deal with a team, you're trying to get a team to stay here, you got to give them a great deal. So pretend that they were from another city and we didn't have a team and we were trying to lure them here. That's how I would do it. What do you think?
All right, great. I appreciate that. Michael, what are your thoughts on that about, the Blazers rolling out the red carpet and pursuing Tom Dundon, who is a, quote, poor billionaire?
The notion of poor and billionaire being in the same sentence itself is not anything I ever thought I would ever hear. I think the notion of, again, I think that the newness of the team being sold, the newness of Tom Dundon. Earlier in my corporate career, I was with the old Southwestern Bell, now AT&T, and Texas was one of our service states. And there are ways that Texas businessmen do business.
Yeah.
They can be very direct. They can be very specific about what they're looking for. Nobody wants to waste money. Nobody wants to feel like they're buying into a bad business deal. No businessman or businesswoman would want that. So I'm not surprised that Tom Dundon has come into this, wanting to get the best deal. That was part of what I think today's meeting also reminded the city council and even those of us who all spent time, watching this online today. And there were some people in the gallery as well, of just how I think valuable not only the Blazers view this market, but how valuable I hope the city council realizes what a sports franchise can really mean.
Yeah.
I was living in St. Louis when the football Cardinals played their last game there and moved to Arizona. Then they came back as the Rams, and then they left again. And now the city of St. Louis has a wonderful dome stadium with 80,000 seats, and the best they can use it for is conventions that come to town, and the UFL Spring League that might get 30,000 folks at a game. So having a professional franchise leave a city can be economically crippling. And in our case, we don't have the NFL here. We don't have Major League Baseball here. We don't have the NHL here. But there is a uniqueness about the Portland market. I think the Tom Dundons of the world and the other competing bids to buy the Blazers certainly recognize this. The passion of the Trailblazer fans. It's great that the Timbers are here and the Thorns are here. We have the Fire back. Kale Wambacher and the folks are doing out in Hillsborough with the Hillsborough Hops as Class A ball, long Class A ball, are showing what could potentially happen in terms of there being good baseball fans in this marketplace. So the notion of people sort of not valuing what Portland is and not valuing what the Trailblazers are, I think we're getting past that now, which I think is going to be a great foundation around which to start negotiating a deal on renovating the Moda Center.
You mentioned Texas and your experience in dealing with businessmen in Texas. I've always thought that there could be a bit of a cultural clash here, right? Like, a lot of people are frustrated with Dundon because maybe he doesn't communicate in a way that we like people to communicate here in Portland. But a lot of that could be the fact that you're from Texas. It's a different, environment than it is here in Portland, right?
Different environment, different culture. He's coming from the NHL. The NHL business model and how the NHL operates that ecosystem is different than the NBA's ecosystem. So this was a brand new one for him.
Yeah.
He's going to be among the rarities in professional sports ownership that will actually own 2 franchises and 2 professional sports leagues. So he's learning a few things. Oregon as a state, and I've said this. I've lived in Oregon now a total of probably 19 years of my whole life, between my 5 years at Nike and then since I've been back, working for the Blazers and University of Portland and all the things since I've been here. It can be an acquired taste in terms of not only Oregon politics, but it can be an acquired taste in terms of how our folks react to things here. I mean, you've been around here long enough to know that people have won and lost elected positions over positions over how they felt about wild salmon runs and old growth forests and spotted owls. Those things are very important here in Oregon. So I think Tom Dundon, he is smart. I think he will continue to surround himself with the right kind of people, plus the core leadership of the Trailblazers that are here that are going to make this thing work.
Yeah, Tom Dundon is really going to go through the same experience that you and I did. You grew up in Arkansas. I grew up in Oklahoma. Culturally, totally different than the Northwest. I've been out here long enough, and I'm adjusted, and I love it out here, but it's not the same place as some other parts in the country.
No, man. I've lived and worked in 7 states. You can add, New York City, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Orlando, St. Louis, growing up in Arkansas. And I've lived in Oregon now, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
So you're right. It can vary culturally. It can vary politically. It can vary when it comes to just people's mindsets around economics.
Yes.
How people's mindsets can be around what they perceive should be a team's role in the community, and how we embrace this community here, how the Trailblazers embrace this community, how the community embraces this team. There are other cities, there are other owners that would love to have the kind of passion and support. And you remember all those years when the Blazers set the consecutive sellout streak for home games, and even when the Blazers were on hard times, the fans still turned out. There are plenty of pro sports franchise owners who would love to have that kind of fan base passion where they are.
No question about it. Michael Llewellyn's hanging out in studio. If you want to jump on board, you can do so at 503-248-0620. We'll come back and continue our discussion. What a pleasure it is. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Former Trailblazer exec Michael Llewellyn in studio here on the Rip City Drive. All right, very happy. We'll take between the team and the city council. And if you want to jump on board, we'll take your call. The team and the city council. And if you want to jump on board, we'll take your call. It's 503-248-0620. Great to have Michael in studio. So through your eyes, Michael, like, what do you think are the biggest sticking points that we're getting hung up on, both team, city, and, the constituents who are watching this play out?
A big figure like $600 million is scary. It's scary for, I think, any state, but scary for a market this size. I think people in certain positions fixated on the big number too quickly.
Yeah.
There are multiple contributors to what it's going to take to renovate the Moda Center and the Rose Quarter, and the state has done its part. You've got a commitment from Multnomah County with what it's going to bring forward, so the city has to do its part. And granted, $120 million is not anything to sneeze at. But if you talk about the fact that it's going to be spread out over 20 years, you're talking about $6 million a year. And this city, like most metropolitan and municipal governments, spends way more money on other initiatives and projects that yield less of and almost yield no dividends at all.
Yeah.
Versus what an economic driver like the Portland Trailblazers have been now for 56 years, getting ready to go into the 57th season.
Yeah, let's go back out to the phones. Jake in Gresham, he watched the entire event today. Jake, you're on with Michael Llewellyn and Chad Doing. What were your takeaways?
Hey, Chad, longtime listener, first-time caller. Just wanted to say thank you for your show, all you do. A couple of years back, I was in the Rip City Clothing main store down during halftime at one of the games. I shouted out, "Show me your Blazers." I saw you walking through. You whipped around, gave me a smile. Thought it was a good moment. Just wanted to say thank you for that.
It was a good moment.
My question to you and to Michael, I kept hearing the Blazers team, their lawyers come back to this statement of litigation being held over their heads, or the threat of litigation, rather. And I really didn't get any sort of answer from the council or from anybody about what that is, and it seems to be the obstacle in the way. So if anyone could shed light on that, I think it might help me understand some more.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks for the phone call, Jake. Michael?
I think Mayor Wilson really cleared that up when he made it crystal clear that the city has never considered litigation against the Trailblazers or Rip City management. It was picked up as kind of a comment in passing, and I think it had kind of more to do with what would happen if there was, if, and I underscore if with giant capital letters here, if there was an effort to, to break the lease prematurely or something along those lines. But the mayor made it clear, no one is going to sue anybody. But when you lob something out there, even just in passing, and it gets picked up by the media, and you being part of the media, you know this well. In this environment with social media and a 24-hour news cycle, and things can go viral, within a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And then if it's left dangling out there for people to create their own interpretations, then, you got a brush fire that wasn't necessary. And I thought part of today's meeting, put some of that to rest. And but again, that needed to be verbalized for the record. And I don't blame the Blazers, legal counsel, making it very clear that this was the big bogey in the room, is that's out there. So what do we do about it? And I thought, again, the way the mayor emphasized the fact that the city is not, nor was it considering suing the Blazers. So hopefully people walked away with that cloud being cleared, and we can get on to the business of this investment and what it's going to mean for the Moda Center and for Portland and for the state of Oregon long term.
Here's Mayor Keith Wilson with the comments you just referred to, Michael.
Our negotiating team have shown up in good faith. We are not contemplating suing the Blazers, Rip City Management, or any other parties. And I just wanted to make sure you trust us in that discussion. So thank you, Council President.
There you go.
Trust is the optimum word here, because I think because how things played out in some of the headlines and some of the coverage, there was some mistrust on both sides of the aisle. That happens a lot in politics. I come from a long line of politicians in Arkansas where I grew up, and that can happen sometimes when you've got everybody in their camps. and there's not a lot of dialogue across the aisle. But today was a big step in that direction, and now you can really get on to the dialogue and the negotiations.
Hey, Michael, you and I both want to see this area thrive, especially downtown, and we want to see the city be rejuvenated. Can you talk about the importance of having an anchor in the city to be able to make that happen?
You've got to have something that draws people to downtown. You need good retail. You need the ability for people to transit smoothly and safely. You need law enforcement. They play a role in all this, but you need an entity that, for those that either live here or those that visit here, that is a point of attraction. That can draw people into the city of Portland, and the Blazers are exactly that. And you've got 56 years of brand equity, the national exposure and international exposure that the Blazers have gotten via the NBA. The Blazers have been supportive of Travel Portland and Travel Oregon when it comes to bringing tourism to our state. We were very supportive. We testified before Metro when they were debating building the Convention Center headquarters hotel to further feed the convention traffic here. Now you have the Hyatt Regency, which with that and the Oregon Convention Center adds to that part of Oregon's economic development. And I think with these being in play, I think we will continue to see Portland's downtown thrive. But we've got to get clear, of this thread of the team moving and get clear of the discourse. Moving a professional sports franchise is not like picking up stakes and moving a barbecue stand to the other side of town. It just doesn't happen that easily. And the NBA Board of Governors would have to be involved. Adam Silver is on record, and other NBA owners as well, of wanting and the Portland market to continue to succeed. The NBA has longed for, more strength here in the Pacific Northwest corridor, with the Sonics moving to Oklahoma City. And of course, Vancouver doesn't have a team anymore. The Blazers have been it when it comes to the NBA's presence here in the Pacific Northwest. That's going to change, obviously, with the upcoming expansion, and presumably Seattle, as we all been led to believe, will get one of those expansion franchises. And, Paul loved the fact that we had that I-5 rivalry between Portland and Seattle. And you remember back when the Sacramento Kings were for sale, and Steve Ballmer at the time, he had one of the competing bids to buy the Kings. And his potential, the thing that he desired to do was to move the Kings from Sacramento to Seattle to restore that additional presence in the Northwest. And of course, the final vote was 26-4 for the Kings to stay in Sacramento, and with that ownership group that was going to keep them there. Steve Ballmer eventually got into the NBA because he and Paul were good friends. Paul voted, for the Kings to move because he wanted his friend Steve Ballmer to be an investor and partner in the NBA. And of course, now that he owns the Clippers, he finally got that. And we're going to eventually, in the next few years, assuming everything plays out the way Adam Silver's described it, that you'll have the Sonics, or whatever they call them in Seattle. And I can't see them not restoring the Sonics brand, because that equity is still there. And you remember this because, whenever Oklahoma City would come to town, you look out in the Moda Center and you see a smattering of Sonics jerseys.
They showed up every single game.
Exactly. You had Gary Payton jerseys and Sean Kemp jerseys and that kind of stuff. Even I saw an old Jack Sikma jersey one night when the Oklahoma City Thunder would come to town. So I think there's definitely a commitment for the NBA and the Pacific Northwest, and again, the value proposition around what a franchise can mean to the economics of a city. I think there's almost probably no better case for how that can successfully work when it's done well, like here in Portland.
Yeah, you made it a good point too, that when you have an NBA team like the Blazers that are on national TV, it brings the attention on the city, and then people who are unaware of the Northwest or the city of Portland all of a sudden are getting eyes on it for the first time, which is great.
You get a chance to learn some things about what life in the Pacific Northwest is and what the culture is here, and Portland gets a chance to showcase itself as part of those national and international broadcasts.
I don't want to monopolize your time, but if you would like to hang out for another segment, I would appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. Michael Llewellyn, former Trailblazers exec in studio. If you want to jump on board and partake in the conversation, 503-248-0620. If you watched the open work session today, and you have any questions or thoughts, we'd love to hear it. 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 5 o'clock. A couple of NFL notes for you. Chris Olave, Saints wide receiver, signed an extension today that includes $90 million in guaranteed money. Panthers wideout Chris Bozell, bad news. He's going to have season-ending surgery on his knee. Drew Brees has asked Broncos head coach Sean Payton to be his presenter at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The Mariners trying to get a series win against the Dodgers. They're going to face off tonight in L.A. at Dodger Stadium. That first pitch at 7:10. It's going to be Brian Wu against Roki Sasaki. Michael Llewellyn, former Trailblazers executive, in studio right now. If you want to jump on board and talk about the negotiations that are ongoing between the city and the team, 503-248-0620. More Rip City Drive coming at you right now. All right, you can jump on board and be a part of the conversation at 503-248-0620. Very happy to be graced with the presence of Michael Llewellyn, who's making time to be in studio with us today, and he'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on the negotiations, 503-248-0620. I think you brought up a very good point that we should probably highlight. I think a lot of people are wondering, even some of the council members, right? Like, where is the money going to go, right? And I think the most important thing to note is the money is not going to be wasted. It's going to be utilized properly where we're all going to benefit from it.
It's not going to be wasted. It's not being pocketed by Tom Dundon and the ownership group. Dwayne Hankins made it very clear today that there are 3 areas that they are really going to invest in where the renovation of the Moda Center is concerned, and that's in technology, the infrastructure of the building. The building's 31 years old, and fan experience. And that's going to take some time to develop. There were a couple of the council members that were asking about more specifics on how the Blazers are going to spend the money. And really, the only thing you could really talk to at this stage were those big buckets. The Blazers have not hired an architect. They have not hired the entities, construction companies. They've not done any of that yet, and you can't. Until the financial commitments are all locked in. Once you do that, then you begin to get into more of the specifics, and that's the stuff that'll roll out over time. You start seeing more detailed renderings. You start getting a sense of what all is going to happen with the renovation of the building. And by the way, the building hasn't just been sitting there, waiting for something to happen. I mean, in the 30 years that Paul Allen owned the team, the Blazers themselves had invested more than $1 billion, in the upkeep and development of the building because they own the building. In that sense, I remember once during my time there, we put in $400,000 worth of brand new lighting in the arena alone to improve the visual experience for fans, but also for Blazer games that were on television to look better, especially in this era of high definition television required, a more intense and more detailed type of lighting. And the Blazers were not shy at all investing in that and then other ways of making the experience in the Moda Center great.
That's terrific. I've always felt like the Blazers have done a good job, too, of embracing the core values of the city of Portland, right? Like making Moda Center sustainable, understanding the vision of the city. And I feel like they've had a good partnership over the years.
Well, the sustainability part, I think, is a great thing, Chad, that you bring up because the Blazers and Moda Center was the first pre-existing building like that was retrofitted to meet LEED gold standards when it comes to environmental sustainability, environmental stewardship. But they didn't stop at that. A few years later, they elevated it to LEED platinum standards. And those standards that you have to meet when it comes to receiving that seal that goes on the building, are pretty strenuous. Everything from recycling to water reclamation to efficient use of power, how you heat, how you cool the building, all of those things. The Blazers have invested a ton in over the years to make it, one of the most sustainable buildings in professional sports.
Yeah, one thing I'm really excited about that I know Tom Dundon is big on, one, fan experience. I know from people being able to get in and out of their seats quickly, traffic flow, everything about it. He wants it to be a better experience for everyone. So I'm excited about that. But also, his forte is development and the visions and the ideas he might have at, helping to make that area a destination point.
Well, and I was living here when the Rose Garden opened for the 95-96 season. And, there was always this plan, this grand plan for a lot of development, not only in the Rose Quarter, but also the footprint around it. And they never quite got there. Never quite got there. So now you have a brand new individual, who is bringing in a fusion, of his own money. And that of his partners, bringing that into the equation now, that hopefully we'll start to see some of that. They always wanted more restaurants and other things for people to do in the Rose Quarter, not just when there were games being played or when WWE wrestling was in town or when there was a concert, but for it, to your point, to be a destination place.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. The biggest thing that I'm getting right now from people that I interact with when I'm outside the studio, around town, Blazer fans who come up to me, they just have this impression that Tom Dundon has had this intention to move the Trailblazers from the moment that he's taken over. What would be your response if someone came up to you and said, Michael, I just feel like Tom Dundon wants to move the team. That's what he's intended to do from day one. What's your take?
I don't buy that. I don't doubt for 1 second that Tom Dundon did his due diligence. He has been interested in the NBA. I'm sure you probably saw some of the additional follow-up coverage that Tom Dundon had a chance to put in, one of the competing bids for the expansion franchise in Vegas.
Yeah.
But instead, he directed his money here to an established franchise, an established fan base, an established market as a much better investment. Plus, it also brought with it the potential to do other development around, the Anchor Arena site, which is part of what he looks to do. He's done that successfully in Raleigh. It took some time. And he got a little contentious there at the beginning for what they were doing there in Raleigh. But I think he has come in here with a similar vision for Portland as what he has been able to successfully do there. And I think we just need to give the plan a chance to take shape and then execute.
I really think it's pretty simple, right? If the council comes around, they come to an agreement, the funding is approved, there's just no way that the NBA owners are not going to want to take that free money, right? They would not approve a move if the city of Portland, through the negotiations, they come to the approval and they've got 573 or 600 million in free money. They're not going to pass that up.
Well, and not only that, and the expansion fees for Seattle and Vegas drastically outweigh what a relocation fee would be for the Blazers to move to Kansas City or to move to Louisville or St. Louis or any other market for that matter. So no, it's financially a losing proposition for an existing team to go to another market for the Board of Governors versus what expansion is going to mean when there's a new team in Seattle and when there's a new team in Vegas.
Especially when you have, and you mentioned this earlier, I can understand why certain markets you might look at other markets or look to potentially move, but it doesn't help the league if you're taking a team from an existing market that has proven over the course of multiple decades to be a successful NBA area. You wouldn't want to move a team away from that.
No, it would take something, borderline, catastrophic. If for some reason, and again, we know this is not the case, but if for some reason that this was a gigantically hostile marketplace, and if the fans were not supporting the team already, if there were not revenue generating sources here already, if you did not have a functioning facility, although in need of some updates already, then I don't think you would have attracted someone like Tom Dundon to invest here. Again, people at his level and elsewhere, they don't have the luxury of the immense wealth that Paul Allen had, and that the Blazers could be more of a passion play for him than perhaps a business that had to yield constant profitability, yield constant dividends. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I certainly was in more enough meetings where, the business plan was always for the franchise to be successful and to make money. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're attracting people from the outside who don't necessarily have the same investment in Portland, like those of us who are here already have, then they will come in with a certain way to approach it. And first and foremost is to get a return on their investment. And I think we're going to get there. I think it's just taking some time and it will take some time to put all the key elements in place. And of course, we've got a great team. We hired a new coach, and Tom Dundon has already shown a willingness to spend on the players and how the team operates is what he did in Raleigh and what just happened. The Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So now he's coming out of that success into this environment here, and he's going to want to do the same thing. He's going to want to win, and he's going to want to do what hasn't happened since 1977, and that's bring a championship here.
And one thing I want to ask you, Michael, you were on the executive team when Chris McGowan was there, and he was always making a big push to try and get an NBA All-Star game in the city of Portland. Do you think the city and the team is better positioned now today to be able to host an All-Star game in the future?
I think upgrades to the arena will certainly feed that, but the biggest thing that was missing at the time when we were aggressively trying to pursue an NBA All-Star weekend and the festivities here was we didn't have a convention headquarters hotel. The NBA looks for facilities with 600, 800 rooms that they can lock down as a headquarters location for an All-Star, so they can have the amenities to offer the players and coaches and sponsors. And we have that now with the Hyatt Regency. The Oregon Convention Center is a great footprint for Fan Fest and all the things that they would wrap around an NBA All-Star weekend. And of course, again, with the looming investments in Moda Center and the Rose Quarter, I think down the road, and again, sadly, Paul passed away, having been one of the few owners in the NBA that had never hosted an NBA All-Star game in his arena in his city. But I think we'll get there one day, especially if we're successful at doing the upgrades to the Moda Center, like the Trailblazers and Tom Dundon are going to want to do.
Yeah, I remember the couple of drafts being held out here, so I'd always envision when I was younger, like the NBA All-Star Weekend being here in town sometime. That'd be cool.
Well, and we're going to get a little taste of something sort of big with a national spotlight on it in 2030.
Yeah,
when
the women's Final Four.
When the women's Final Four comes here, Portland has certainly been good for some regional NCAA games.
That's been fun.
It's been fun. It's been great for the city, and you've had.
Did you get a chance to get out and check out some of those games?
Oh, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And having the University of Arkansas, Ohio State, Georgetown, those teams back in those days come here and play basketball all around the NCAA tournament, and what it will mean. I think that was a good test run for us, and I think the women's Final Four in 2030 would be another good test run as to what Portland is capable to do. And we get these innovations into the Moda Center, and then of course we've already at least checked the boxes of having more hotel rooms here in Portland and the convention headquarters hotel, and we've got a great convention center. I think it's just a matter of time.
Michael Llewellyn in studio. Hey, I really appreciate you making time for the show today, and thank you for bringing some logic and reason to the conversation.
Well, I had to, pay off the investment of watching, 2+ hours of politics today, but it was good. It was worth it.
But for someone that comes from a family of politicians, like you enjoy watching the process play out, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, because you get a chance to see the uniqueness of the individuals who are leading our cities.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Michael Llewellyn in studio. You can jump on board 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Income. Wrapped around your finger from Synchronicity. Wrapped around your finger from Synchronicity. I've mentioned this before. Give me some volume on that, Shacker. Sting is one of those guys that I do want to be for a day.
He owns and lives in a castle.
I would say, like that song, King of Pain. It's a great song. I'm totally down. Right. And big thanks to Michael Llewellyn. You know, I've mentioned this time and time again, but the best part, or one of the best parts about, you know, this line of work is just the people that you come in contact with and get to, you know, have relationships with. Michael Llewellyn is one of the kindest, smartest, gracious individuals I've ever come across. And I had a chance to meet him when he was working on the executive team with the Trailblazers, and we formed a friendship. And I think it's the connection. He grew up and was born in, you know, Arkansas. I came from Oklahoma, so very similar, you know, regions of the country, same type of people. And so I think we kind of see eye to eye there. And then we both have been out here in the Northwest for a very long time. But Michael he's pure gold. So big thanks to him. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I mean, the emotions are all over the map right now with these negotiations. Now, one of my very good friends who I golf with frequently just sent me a message. Oof, doesn't sound like a good meeting today. Starting to get the impression that Dundon intended to move the team from the get-go. At this point, I don't want to give the Blazers anything from a longtime fan. So that is one side. And there are many people that feel like this gentleman right here. And again, I feel the same way today that I did yesterday or 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, that this is all part of the negotiations and the rhetoric that's going on. And eventually they're going to come to the table. We got the vote coming up on August 12th. I think they'll get a deal done, and the team's going to continue to remain here into the foreseeable future. But that does not mean that things are going to be nice over the next couple of weeks as they continue to negotiate. You know, because both sides, this is a big-time deal. Both sides are trying to get what they want. And with that is going to come some difficulty, some challenges, and that's okay. 503-248-0620. In case you missed it, Mayor Keith Wilson reiterated that we are not considering suing the Portland Trailblazers.
Our negotiating team have showed up in good faith. We are not contemplating suing the Blazers, Rip City Management, or any other parties. And I just wanted to make sure you trust us in that discussion. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. My favorite comment of the day came from Olivia Clark. Now, keep in mind, she doesn't attend games, but she understands the importance of the Trailblazers.
There are intangible benefits to having them here that we cannot measure. There's no scientific approach. I mean, maybe polling is about as close as you get. And, you know, I admit I don't go to Blazer games, but I can feel how important this is to our whole community, that we do this right. There's an emotional, if not a spiritual support for having the Blazers here. You can feel it, you can palpate it. It's about hope, it's about the future, and that's not something that you can calculate the value of. I just wanted to throw that out there, remind everybody how important this is. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Really appreciate your comments there. Might want to attend a game sometime. It's not bad, NBA basketball. Ms. Clark, in case you didn't know, NBA action is fantastic. You should probably check it out sometime. Anytime someone says there's a feeling, that's not a good take, actually. I'll admit it. I don't go to games, but, and then they start to tell you what the Blazers mean to the area.
There are intangible benefits to having them here that we cannot measure. There's no scientific approach. I mean, maybe polling is about as close as you get. And, you know, I admit I don't go to Blazer games, but I can feel how important this is to our whole community, that we do this right. There's an emotional, if not a spiritual support for having the Blazers here. You can feel it, you can palpate it. It's about hope, it's about the future, And that's not something that you can calculate the value of. I just wanted to throw that out there, remind everybody
throw it
how
out there.
important this is. Thank you.
All right. We should have kept playing Sting instead of Olivia. That's all right, though. 503-248-0620. And there are actually fans. We had people call in. They watched the whole session today. That's when you know something big's going down. If you're willing to sit and give up like 2 hours of your life to watch the council in session, you either hate your life or there's something big going down. Yeah. Oh, well. I thought Michael made a good point, too. You have to have an anchor in your city in order to rejuvenate the surroundings. They don't have a choice. What are you going to do? You're going to let them go? You're not going to approve the funding and the Blazers are going to walk and leave? I don't think that's a good idea. Probably not the best route. They'll get a deal done. They'll get it done. And I don't think I'm wrong on this one. 503-248-0620. But there are many, and a lot of people I know and I'm close with, that don't share the same type of confidence level in Dundon and the way things are playing out. But again, what I would recommend, if you're apprehensive, if you have anxiety, if you're gripping through this process right now as it continues to play out, just go back, do a couple of Google searches, and you'll be able to find several articles that were written about Dundon at the time that he took over the Hurricanes and the negotiating that went on with the city there in Raleigh. It was not friendly. It wasn't. It got very contentious, but they got a deal done. And as, Michael also pointed out, he comes into town from Texas. He's got a different way of doing business, the way he communicates. And, you're going to run into some issues when you're coming to a place like Portland because it is different. Portland is unique unto itself in terms of what the majority think, feel, what they desire, what's important to them, the way they look at everything. It's just a different part of the country. And so you'll run into some, issues when you're coming in from Texas trying to do things a certain way. But Dundon's he's not a fool. And he'll be able to understand and adjust and adapt and eventually get a deal done. And I'll be glad when they do, because then we can return to the days of old where we talk about basketball, talk about the Blazers being a team filled with a bunch of small guards, or a team, then you can start throwing out all of your horrific trade machine ideas, just the good basketball stuff that we want to hear about. I just got hit up from Paul in West Lynn. That's okay. I have never attended a Portland Fire game and never will, but recognize the importance of having a team for women's hoops in town. Now, Paul, why would you not attend a Fire game? I would be at the game tomorrow night if I did not have a prior work engagement. I mean, Shacker's trying to get me to get out of my work engagement so I can be there to see Sophie Cunningham.
Yeah, do that work remotely.
Can you talk to Sophie for me and just tell her that I'm a big fan?
Yeah. So do you want to FaceTime with her?
FaceTime would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go on the court.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But let's see, and Clark's going to play, so that's going to be pretty sweet. Because I don't think that the game was so ugly the last time they played here that, Clark didn't play many minutes. She had a bad night. I think she was 1 of 7 in that game.
Oh, because Portland was so good.
Yeah, that was one of the best performances of the year for the Fire. Yeah, so I would be there tomorrow night, Paul, if I didn't have – I'll be down at Spirit Mountain Casino for what is the name of the event? And we're giving away cash, Freedom to Win. What is that event? I get them all mixed up. They got all the crafty names for the drawings. Let's see here. Yeah, Freedom to Win. You can win up to $5,000 in cash, win a share of $75,000 total in cash, and free play prizes. So that's where I'll be tomorrow night. If not, I would be at the Fire game. But I would encourage you to check out Sophie Cunningham's podcast. What's cool about social media now is how people are able to, these athletes, female athletes, NBA players, NFL players, they can get their message out if they want to share, which I think is pretty cool. And my man Charlie has chimed in. Dude, I have to admit it. You have to know that I'm a huge, huge basketball fan. I mean, coach high school basketball for, more than a decade. Let's put it that way. And played. But the only time I've been to a Blazer game in the last decade is when you guys sent me for free. It's kind of a bad sign of what the experience really is to go to a Blazer game. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why, people go to games or why they don't go to games. I think part of it is, especially over the last few years, the team, aside from this past season, hasn't been good. And they went through a tanking process to improve draft position. So that's going to hurt attendance. I think that's a problem. I think also as families grow and change, sometimes discretionary income can dictate, whether or not you're going to attend NBA games. I mean, it is expensive, but it just depends. It's different. Now, for me, I go to all the games because, I work and cover the Blazer games. But if I didn't have this job, I would still make it a point to go to games. But I would not go every night. I don't think I'd be a season ticket holder just because of cost. Let's go out to Kenny, who's chilling in Vancouver. Kenny, I appreciate the phone call, my friend. What's your takeaway on the work session today?
Well, Chad, I've texted you and have been very nervous of late, but I was very impressed after today. I love how the mayor came out and was vocal on the fact that they weren't going to sue the Blazers. So can we just throw that away, which I really appreciate from the first sports-minded mayor that knows how important sports is to a community as a whole in the history of my lifetime of 62 years in this city. So let's give Mayor Wilson some props. Also to Olivia, Counselor, bravo. She hasn't gone to any Blazer games, but she is smart enough to acknowledge how important this franchise is to our psyche, to our soul, to the business side of this community. It's fantastic. I am just really proud of her more than anybody because of the fact that I get all these, the ones who poo-poo this whole thing are, they're like, they think sports is overrated. It's not that big a deal. Who cares about it? It's exactly the attitude that's Tom McCall's, the Goldschmidt's, I can go on and on about mayors or governors who've ran this state that couldn't care less about sports. Well, I'm proud of those people, and I'm really excited. I think this is going to get done, and it's going to be a renaissance because that Albina project is certainly going to be helped by the Moda Center being redone. And we can go on and on and on about the potential of opening up the side of the waterfront and more the development that can happen, making our city special. That's what we all want. And I just wanted to give some props to the mayor and, the governor finally understanding the effect of how, like I said, tell people all over the, whoever talk to, and, I talk too much, but sports is the only thing rich and poor have in common, to be quite honest with you, other than taxes and things like that. I mean, it's the one thing that brings the rich and poor together is our love for a team. And the Blazers are special, and we want to keep them. Thanks, Chad.
I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, for me, I'm the same as you, Kenny. Like, I'm a sports fan. So it's hard for me not to see this in any other way. And I meet people that really don't pay attention to sports. They don't watch sports. It's not in their wheelhouse. They just don't care. I've lived by a sports calendar for almost my entire life, ever since I was a young boy. I mean, it's always been a part of everything that I do. I love sports. And there are many people like me, but there are people in the area that just, they don't care. But I would hope that even if you're not a big sports fan or, the Blazers are not at the top of your priority list, that you could at least recognize the importance of having a $4.25 billion corporation in the city that provides jobs, that contributes millions of dollars through their community foundation, and having that anchor in the downtown area that, brings business in and brings people to the city for a variety of different reasons. It's important. So, and I think there are non-sports fans who see it that way as well. And there are members on the council who are not sports fans. We have one that doesn't attend games, but they still understand the importance of, having the team here and understanding the value of what it brings. The tentacles, they're far-reaching in terms of all the different things in the area that the Blazer games and having events at Moda Center on a regular basis mean. It's critical. It provides jobs. You have restaurants and bars that have patrons that go in before and after games. The rideshare drivers, taxi drivers, the mass transits that's utilized. It's critical. And it's important for the area. I mean, as I mentioned before, I didn't know anything about the Northwest when my parents decided to move us out here. But I knew one thing. They had Clyde Drexler. Can't be that bad if you got Clyde the Glide. That's how my mind thought, because I'm a fool. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. A reminder that tomorrow, the man himself, the author of the College Football Bible, and a full preview of the upcoming college football season. And I would say genius and a full preview of the upcoming college football season. And I would say that right now, and it's probably been like this for the last couple of years, I go through phases where the sports, much like my kid rankings, my sport rankings change. Right now, college football for me is number one. That is my number one sport, followed by the NFL. But college football, I love it. I love the atmosphere. I love the games. I love the competition. I love the pageantry. I love the tradition. I love how all the different areas have their own tailgating and different game day experiences, like the whole thing. So I'm really looking forward to college football season kicking off. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I still got time if you want to jump on board. We'll take your calls. You can share your thoughts. I'm confident that this is all leading to an agreement. Do you see it the same way? All right, we'll come back. Again, jump on board. We got time. 503-248-0620. Chad doing Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, I like this. Phone lines are juiced up right now, so we're going to take all your calls. 503-248-0620. Well, the majority have been reacting to the open work session day between the city and the Portland Trailblazers. So let's get your thoughts. We'll start down in Salem. Steven's out there. Steven in Salem, appreciate the phone call. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Fabulous.
I was just a quick question. So, if the Blazers decide to do a little Irish goodbye and skip town, would it improve the odds of us getting an MLB team? Because then all we would have is the WNBA and soccer.
Yeah, I don't.
Sports around here.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Steven. I think it would hurt the chance of getting Major League Baseball because then it becomes a ghost town. And you want to have as many big-time tenants as you can possibly have because it helps the town thrive. I think that's critical. So, no, I do not think it would help. I think it would hinder the opportunity to get baseball. And I want baseball badly, like a lot of people do. Baseball in Portland would be awesome. We'd have games, long season, summertime in the downtown area with baseball games would be phenomenal. I'm going to continue to dream about that. I won't believe it until it happens, but, man, that'd be great. But, no, I think the Blazers being in town helps the chances of baseball coming to town. I think it helps the opportunity to rejuvenate the city, to hopefully at some point attract more businesses that can come to town instead of the ones that have been, bolting when they get a chance. Let's go back out to the phones. Let's go to Kaiser. Mike and Kaiser, you're up on the RipCityDrive. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Chad. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, long time no talkie. Hey, I got a two-part comment here. And the first is a little bit change of direction. Talk about the team issues, just players-wise.
Yeah.
I think our GM, he did a great job in, moving our decent power forward and getting Ja Morant. I thought that was great, just getting a good asset, an up-and-coming player. Hopefully has a good return. But we still have, a plethora, 3 to 4 centers and a lot of guards in there. I think we need to change that up a bit. He needs to do a little bit better job, just get all-around basketball player. It's almost like this new NBA is going towards positionless basketball. Everybody can play defense. Everybody can shoot the three. So I think we need a little bit of improvement there. And my last point will be on the Moda Center. I think the new ownership, if it stays in Portland, I think they need to have better restaurants and events before the game. And I look at the example of like Autzen Stadium and the Moda Center, and I compare it to maybe, let's say, the Seahawks and the Mariners Stadium up in Seattle. It just doesn't compare. There's nothing to do before the game with my kids. And the last thing would be, I think the Portland Trailblazers community needs to focus more on winning, putting together a winning team to win a championship, focus a little bit less on the relationships.
I appreciate the phone call. I can't give up the specifics, but I do know from people I've spoke to in the private sector that have had conversations with Dundon, they have some very good plans for how they want to rejuvenate and making that whole Rose Quarter area around the arena a destination spot. And it's exciting. So I'm really pumped if they can get this deal done and move forward, that let Tom Dundon do what he does best, which is development with that real estate. And the people I've talked to, there are some great plans that would make it a destination spot every night throughout the course of the year, whether there's an event or not, if they're able to get the things done that they have planned. So I'm excited about, some of the, idea guys that are out there trying to get things done. Let's go back out to the phones. Let's go back to Salem. Clinton in Salem. Clinton, appreciate the call. You're up on the RipCityDrive. What's on your mind?
Hey, I want to go back to Dundon. It's been really disappointing for this whole time. It's just been negative news after negative news. I was really excited when the guy who just took the Hurricanes to a dominant NHL team, and we haven't been able to talk one positive thing about Portland basically since. So really, I just want the deal to get done so we can get back to talking how excited this team is with Dame coming back and with the new owner, see what he's got planned. And so that's just my quick comment on the whole situation. I'm ready for some positivity.
Well, Clinton, I agree, and this is what I truly believe. Now, that I actually think that right now is a good time to be a Trailblazer fan. Once we get through this negotiating and then get the approval for the funding to renovate the Moda Center, I think having an owner in place that's aggressive and wants to win is much better than having the team being held by a trust. And I like the competitive nature that Dundon has, his desire to get things done. We've seen the success he had in the NHL. Like, I think, I like that type of owner, leading the charge and bringing direction to the franchise. So once they get past this negotiation, maybe we can focus on some good old-fashioned basketball. And then with those successes, I think we'll get better press.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. There's Clinton. Appreciate that, my friend. Let's go to Mary in Portland. Mary, great to hear your voice. Mary, what's on your mind?
Hi, Chad. I'm just wanting to take the opportunity to tell you that I appreciate you, that your the different people that you bring in and interview, and how educational and informative I find your show when I can listen, and just your down to earth personality. It's great and refreshing to know that we have you as a resource in Portland, Oregon, my home.
Hey, Mary,
And,
I really appreciate you
like
saying that. That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds like Dundon was playing, or his team anyway, was playing hardball today. And that's just, I'm just going to wait and see. I think I agree with you. It's just like it's got to play out. And it'll be over soon. We can move forward. I personally am on pause with the jaw idea. He's got to prove himself to me before I'm like all excited about that. But I am still a fan and will be for life. Here you go.
Yeah, and we're in
Have
the
a good
same.
day.
We're in the same boat. We're Trailblazer fans for life, no matter for better or for worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mary, I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words too. That's Mary, a huge Trailblazer fan. Let's go back out to the phones. Astoria, David in Astoria. What's up, David?
Hey, Chad. First off, I want to echo what Mary said and say thank you. I've been really appreciating the way you have jumped into this whole negotiating process and kept us abreast of what's going on and brought in people who are a little closer to the process, and it's quite helpful. I appreciate it. One concern I have is I mentioned before about types of business owners, and Dundon being from the wing of business that is by necessity more hard-nosed, more ruthless, and I think you're right to look at his process with the hockey team, because for any public person, you really have to look at what they do, not what they say. And the contentiousness of the negotiations there make it unsurprising that they're being contentious now. My only little niggling concern is that I hope he doesn't misread his Portland audience. There are enough non-business savvy Portland leaders, county leaders, etc., that if he gets too hard-nosed, they could do something stupid, throw the baby out with the bathwater, and say, well, that's not the way we do business here in Oregon, and do some dumb stuff. I hope that doesn't happen. And let me finish with a question. Blazers, any inside information on potential trades to beef up the wing spot?
That's a good point. I have not heard anything specific, David. I appreciate the call. I have not heard any rumblings or inside information on a potential target for a wing. All I can tell you is that you would expect something to come down the pipe because there is a roster imbalance. Multiple centers, multiple guards, two legit forwards in Denny and Tamani. and it goes back to the jaw trade, right? Like the value for unloading Jeremy Grant's contract and Chris Murray and getting a 2-time All-Star back in return is terrific. But the fit is hard for my brain to process because you have 5 guards and you have Denny Avdia, who essentially is a guard because he's your best player and primary facilitator. So they do need a trade to balance out the roster without question. All right, big thanks to Michael Llewellyn, John Nolan, voice of the Indiana Fever, and my man Michael Shacker. He put the interview together with Nolan. Michael Llewellyn was great in studio. Your phone calls, really appreciated. Great insight. Phil Steele, author of the College Football Bible, is coming up tomorrow. And we'll do it again with the Rip City Drive at 3 on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.